Okay, right, we're on to page 54 then. So we're going to have a look at the event graph inside the character blueprint. So first of all, we need to actually open up the character random blueprint, and we need to go into the event graph. It's only good at allowing valid connections, the thing we talked about with the tick, the green tick. If it doesn't work, it'll just be a red cross. And it says the white executive arrow or execute arrow is the main flow of the blueprint. So we noticed there in the last one the white blueprint being connected to the next node, and I've shown you this in some of the examples in the lecture as well. So it says there, drag a path from event blueprint update. So we do need this one. It looks like an earlier version doesn't actually have some extra parts yet, so we do need the update animation one. Drag a line out from here, it says from the executable, and look for is valid. So just type in is valid, and we have it there. Just select it. So there's is valid selected. So we need to know if the character is jumping. So we need to know basically if the is in air thing is actually working. So drag from the is valid and type in is in air. So we've got the is in air. So we can have a look at that and we can select it. Continuing the path again. So again, drag off from this and we need to look for speed var. And there is speed var there at the bottom. So we have all these things now. So it should look like the image basically. If you zoom out a little bit, it should look like that. So on to the next page. If you right click anywhere and search for try get pawn owner, and it appears by itself, and get the output of this and put it into the input of the is valid. So we have that now. It says drag another path off the try pawn get owner and search for get movement. So get movement and get movement component. So click on that one, and then it says after that, then drag a path from this and search for is falling. So grab that, drag another path off and search for is falling. And there's is falling down there. So we've now got is falling. So these nodes check to see if the character is falling, or in our case jumping, i.e. not on the ground. So we want to know if the character basically is in the air. Connect the return value of is falling to is in the air. So we've got two red connections there and we've got two blue connections here. Nearly done. It says from the last time, drag one more off try get pawn owner, and we're looking for get velocity. So there's get velocity. Click on that. This obviously is the speed of our character and the direction it's moving in. And from that we need to drag out one and look for vector or vector length, which is that one there. So we've got a vector length. Link the return value at vector length to the green input of the speed var. So green to green, that's that there. So we've got that now connected, and this connected too. So if you think that's right, we'll go up to compile, hit compile, and everything's okay. And now we've got this connection running, which is telling us that the blueprint is updating every tick basically. I don't know how many kind of times a second it is, but it's looking at all time, and it's looking for this is valid now. So it says once that's done, we can close the event graph thing, or persona, whatever it is. So close that down. So we're back to the main screen again. So on page 56, it says that's the end of the character animation stuff. We don't need any more than that at the moment. Obviously, it takes a bit of getting used to. There's a lot of right-clicking and searching for things, and you just got to make sure you do it in the correct order. So if it says drag off from this node, you need to drag off from whatever node it is. If you try just right-clicking and searching for it, it may not find the node that you're looking for. You have to kind of follow that. It's only going to find things from the node you're dragging it off from. So if it says drag off from this node, make sure you do, basically. So it says we've got a few new states. We've created some transitions within the animation system. We've set up some controls for the transitions to tell it, transition to this node when you're in the air, and then go to this one when you land again, etc. And we've got a Boolean variable, which is are we in the air? Yes or no. So we've got that sorted. So now we know the state machine is working. We've set all our controls up in the settings, and we've got a way of telling the engine that if we're moving or idling or walking, because we set up the blend space. So now that should be enough for the moment. We haven't done the action yet, but the action takes a little bit more work and it's a little bit more tricky. We can get everything else working up until that point though. So hopefully it says at the end of the section we'll be able to play our character in the level. So on to the next page. So now we've got to go and have a look at the character blueprint. So we've got the animation blueprint here, which controls all the animation. The character blueprint controls all of the commands basically, and it tells the animation blueprint what to do. So the animation blueprint stores all the different animations and how it gets from one animation to the other. The character blueprint tells it what animation it should be playing, basically. And all of the stuff like the collision capsule that I mentioned in the lecture and that kind of thing. Okay, right, so it says without further ado, in the middle of that page, select the character folder in the asset. So we're in the character folder again, in the asset list. In the asset browser, right click and choose, let's see there, and choose new asset and blueprint. So are we looking for there, or are we looking for add new? Where are we looking for? Oh, it's probably in here, isn't it? So blueprints, and then it says new asset blueprint class. So blueprints and blueprint class. Click on blueprint can't even spit it out. Blueprint class, and choose the character node. So click on character. So it says there, a character is a type of pawn that includes the ability to walk around. So it's basically a pawn, but with some extra controls in it to allow the player to control it. So click on character. It gives us our kind of thing here to type in. We'll call it character BP. So character underscore BP for blueprint, and there we have it. This is a double click on the icon to open the blueprint window. So a slightly different setup here in terms of how we create the character. We still have the event graph that we still kind of need to add stuff to, but we're going to start with the viewport here. We're going to get our character into the game. This is the collision capsule that I mentioned, and hopefully at the end of this we'll see him moving around. So on to page 58, it's just a quick description of what you can currently see on the screen. So components up here, blueprint stuff, compiler if things go right or wrong, your main viewer, and then the details panel here on the right hand side where you've got to set various switches and numbers, etc. So page 59, as you create the character blueprint, this section fills up with various components like cameras and collision boxes and those kind of things. And the compiler results again, so you hit compile, if everything works, hopefully you get the little green tick. If it doesn't, you'll probably get the cross or some kind of warning. So it says in the main viewport you can see a capsule and an arrow. So this is your collision capsule that I mentioned, and the arrow is, as far as Unreal is concerned, forward. That is pointing in the direction you're going to move. So these two items represent the hit check collision that I mentioned and the direction forward of travel. Select Mesh Inherited from the Components window. So all the way up to the top here, and there is Mesh Inherited. If you click on that, it brings up this window on the right hand side here. On the right hand side of the screen, find the mesh rollout, so this section here, and you can see it says skeletal mesh. At the moment it says none. So if you set the downward arrow, it basically gives us a list of all the skeletons. We've only got one, so if you select our light mesh master, it appears now in the window. So it says there, use the rotate tool to make the character point forward and place its feet at the bottom of the capsule. So we want our character to face this direction, but at the moment he's currently facing right. So if we just use the rotate tool, we should be able to rotate him 90 degrees, which we have, so he's now facing forward, but he's also a bit high up. So we want the bottom of the character to be at the bottom of this capsule. So if you grab a hold of him and just move him down, you can go into a left view in this topping here. So if you go in the left view and drag him down, we're currently set to step still, so we can turn that off and we can get him more to the actual bottom of the capsule itself. So you can see that the capsule is really big. We'll alter this in a second. Let's go back to perspective again though. So it says that if you hover the mouse cursor over the various items on the screen, UE4 displays plenty of tooltips, and it gives you a basic idea of what does what. So it's just mentioning there, as you hold over each thing, it tells you a little bit of information about what each thing does, basically. It's not going to go away, that is it? Okay, right. So it says just above the mesh rollout, you can see the animation rollout, which is this one here. Leave animation mode as it is, but use the drop down where it says anim class and find your character animation BP. So again, click on the down arrow and you should be able to find somewhere in the middle there, we've got character anim BP. If you click on that, we now have our character in the game and it should be playing the idle animation, which it is. If we look at it again from the left view, hopefully his feet are still very close to the ground there. That's great, that's kind of what we want. It says that you need to change the size of the capsule though, to better surround your character. Either click on the capsule in the main viewport or select capsule component from the component window. So you can either just click on it and select it there, or you can select it from the window up here. On the right hand side of the screen, it says you can change the values of the capsule half height and the capsule radius. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just got to be up close. So we've got shape, we've got capsule half height and capsule radius. So we probably want it a little bit fatter to try and cover a bit more of the character. So we just go in the left view and we make the radius a little bit bigger. So just hold the left mouse button down and just drag out perhaps, and you can see the shape now changing shape. So perhaps somewhere around there. He's still really high, so if we drag it down, we can do that. You can see that the capsule kind of shrinks together from the middle as opposed to down from the top, and as it's shrunk now, we're now too far off the bottom. If we were to play the game now, most of the character would be through the ground because the game would see this as the bottom of the character. So we've just got to select the mesh again and just move him up to where his feet should be somewhere on the ground. Perhaps try front as well. I'll zoom in a little bit. That looks about right, I guess, and that is pretty close to where we want it. So for our character, that is as close as we're going to get. We're not going to get any closer than just the main capsule here. Obviously for your character it might be a lot wider. Just kind of make sure that you've got about the right kind of length, and then however else it goes from there. Okay, back to perspective again. So there's our character moving in his little bubble, and we've got him, kind of in the right place. Okay, so on to the next page. Now we've got that set up. Onto page 61, it says select the character movement inherited again. So character movement inherited. And in the details tab, look for character movement walking. So we've got character movement and we've got walking. It says there's lots of values here to be changed. About 7 values from the top, you will see maximum walk speed. So character walking, max walk speed, 600. It's got at the moment there next to that. We're not going to know exactly what we want, but we're just going to have to try and find out what the best speed is for this character. It should be, as far as I'm aware, 600, because Unreal works in centimeters. 1 unit is 1 centimeter. That's probably a maximum walking speed of 6 meters a second. And crouched would be kind of if you were prone in a game, you press the crouch button and then you run forward as a crouch, it's half the speed. But we're not going to go into any of that. We're just kind of looking at the 600 here. So it says there, kind of experiment with the numbers and see what they do. So you'll need to come back to this if your character's too fast or too slow. I'll just type in 200 for now and see how 200 goes. Add. Let's have a look. Okay, so we're only interested in max walk speed, but you can see there are a few other values to play with. After this, also make sure that the jump falling settings further up. This determines how high your character will jump through the air. So we'll take a quick look as to where it is. So we've got character movement, jumping and falling, Z velocity, so basically how fast it's going to go up into the air. I don't know. Again, we're just going to have to kind of, maybe just leave it as it is. But if your character is jumping too high or too low, then this is the value you're looking for to change. It's the Z or the up velocity, the up speed. If you're going to make big changes to these values, keep track of what it is. It's nice that kind of when you change a value, the default setting has a little arrow here, and you can reset it back to what it was. That value goes. So we'll leave that at 200. At the moment, we'll leave this at, well, let's change it. Let's make this, I don't know, let's make it 300, I guess, and see how it goes. Might make it easier to recognize it because we've got this little icon that's now appeared. Okay, so that's that one done. Adding a player camera. So it says there in the top left, there is an add component. So if you go up to the control here and click on add component, we are looking for, it says spring arm. So if we just start typing in spring arm, there it is, and there's our spring arm. You can rename it camera boom, so we know we're going to attach a camera to it, and there you go. We'll attach this to our player camera to this. So if you come up against a wall or a solid surface, the camera boom will contract to try and keep the camera intersecting with the geometry. So basically, if you run backwards into a wall, the camera won't go through the wall and you stop. The camera will become closer to the character so it doesn't go through the wall. So once it's been added, we need to use the move tool to better position the end target of the boom. It'll probably need a bit of tweaking when you actually see it in the game, but somewhere around the neck or the head would be a good place to start. So with it still selected, now you want it, I mean that's not a bad place to have it. A little bit further down, obviously you're going to get to see more and more of the character on the screen. If you were to put it here, kind of that'd be ridiculous. But somewhere around here, I guess. I mean that wasn't actually a bad place to have it. So we'll leave it there. If it needs some tweaking when we actually see it in the game, we need to come back to here and select the camera boom and change it again. Right. So while that's still selected, change the camera settings to use pawn control rotation to on. So here's our camera settings. We've got use pawn control rotation. we need to turn that on. Okay, so that's now on. It says this allows us to orbit the character independent of the way the character is facing. So you can push forward on the joypad or left on the joypad, and you can use the other stick or whatever, or the mouse to control how we're looking at it. So we could pull back on the joypad, and the character could basically run away, run towards us, but it could go backwards or it could actually go forwards depending on which way the camera's facing. When you start playing it, you'll see what I mean. So it says that ideally your character should not be in the middle of the screen when you play the level. It should be like kind of quite down, like low to the bottom. So he's at the bottom of the screen, and you can see build a level above you. It says there is a camera or target arm length, which denotes how far away the camera is. You'll probably need to tweak this as well. So there's the target arm length there, and it says 300. If you see how long this red line is, as we change this number, that red line changes. So you're going to need to use this as well to try and determine whereabouts the camera should be, and it'll attach itself to this line. So we've changed that as well. We might kind of need to come back in and have a look at this again. So we need to add the camera this time. So up to add component, and we need to find camera. So if you just start typing in camera, we've got camera there. Not the cine camera, just the normal camera. So we've got a camera. It says if you still have the camera boom selected, it will attach itself automatically, which it has. So basically the camera is now a child of the camera boom. So as the camera boom changes length, etc., the camera should stay with it, and we can have a look at that. We've got the camera boom selected. If we change the arm length, you can see the camera now moves with the arm length as well. And if you move the camera boom around, the camera goes with it. Okay. If it hasn't, and kind of you didn't have that selected when you've done it, all you've got to do is literally grab a hold of the camera and just move it up to what you want to attach it to. So imagine that's happened there, where the camera's come in just by itself. Just click the left mouse button with the camera, drag it up the camera boom, and leave go, and it then becomes a child of it. It says there, make sure the camera is a child of the camera boom, which it is, and make sure the camera's XYZ locations are all set to 0. So we've got the camera selected. Its location is basically that, and that. It says they all need to read 0. So if we click on 0, they're all now 0 again, and it is now attached. It's still attached to the camera boom. So just make sure all they're set to 0. So page 63, it says your final camera setup should look something like this, which it does. In the image there, now we've got the character, we've got the collision box around it, and we've got the camera close to it now as well. It says that. Select the character BP self node. So character BP self, so the one right at the top here. If you just click on that, and under the add control, directly under the add component button, sorry, that seems to be a little off in the image there, but hopefully that should, I should be able to figure out what that is. Go to the details panel, and under the pawn setting, it says use control, and then it's being covered up. I'm going to have to guess here. I think it's pitch. We'll find out that whether it's pitch or roll. I'm pretty sure it's pitch, but I'll figure out there kind of when I have a look at the file again. So actually it says untick, so it has to be this one. So it's use controller rotation yaw. It says untick that one. That's the only one currently ticked, so we'll untick that. In character movement inherited, so let's find character movement inherited. If you click on that now, character movement rotation settings, and look for turn on orient rotation to movement. So we are looking for character movement rotation settings. So hopefully if you go down, so there's character movement rotation settings, and it says there orient rotation to movement. So we need to turn that on. So turn that on. Okay. So it's basically this makes the character face the direction of travel. If you want the character to always face forward and create strafe and turning animations, you'd leave this unticked. So the character basically would always face forward. But we kind of want it running towards us and running left and right, etc. Which is why if we push right on the joypad, it's going to rotate the character to point right. Push forward, obviously point forward, pull back to run towards us kind of thing. Okay, so hopefully, compile the blueprint, and that should hopefully tick, which it has. That's all gone in absolutely fine. So on to page 64. So while we're still in the character blueprint, we need to click on the event graph. So click on the event graph, something similar to we had in the character animation one. We've got to add a few nodes to this one as well. So all those inputs we created before, up in the settings thing where we added the WSD keys and the buttons and the mouse controls and that, this is where we're going to control them from this here. So it says the event graph opens 3 grayed out nodes. We're not going to need these ones, so just move them ones out of the way. We see the blueprints. Obviously, this is a lot of kind of right-clicking and searching and joining things together. So the first thing we want to do is grab the move forward, which is one of the controls we created in the settings tab. So it says there, right-click and search for a node. So we want to search for the move forward. So start typing in move underscore forward, and we have axis events and axis values. We want the axis events one, so move forward from the axis events. We have the thing there in the middle. So we want to know when the player is actually inputting a movement. So from the executable, drag a connection off and search for add movement input. So add movement input. So we have a rather large box there with just one thing going into it. And the option we want is, well, it was under the input rule out there. It says connect the 2 green inputs and outputs together. So out from there and into there. So we've got that one there. It says there, to get the world direction, we need to check the character's rotation. So we're going to try and plug something into this one now. So let's right click in an empty space and search for get control rotation. So get control rotation. Click on that. And it says that we're only interested in the yaw rotation. So this current value is going to give us all 3. We don't want all 3, we just want the yaw. So it says there, drag a connection off the return value. So drag connection off. At the very bottom of the pop-up, you should see break rotator. So just go over to the menu here, scroll down a little bit, and you've got break rotator. If you just click on break rotator, it now splits that output into the 3 different values. So select this and it will create a new node with 3 separate splits. It's got pitch, yaw and roll, which it has. So the next page it says drag a connection off Z yaw and search for make rotator. So let's search for make and rotator. There it is. Select that and we now have break and make setup. So the new node will automatically connect to X roll, okay, which is not what we want. In order to make the connection to yaw, hold down Control on the keyboard and left click make rot X roll. So hold down Control and left click on it. Drag the connection down until you are over the Z yaw input. So hold the mouse button down and just drag it all the way down to the bottom one and then leave go. And it's made the connection to here instead of the one at the top. A green tick should appear, which it did. Release the mouse button and the new connection's been made. So from the make rotator return value, drag a connection out and do a search for get forward vector. So get forward vector, there it is. So just select that. Bring these a little bit closer maybe. And lastly, connect the get forward vector's return value into the add movement value of the world. So you can see kind of, we've eventually come to a yellow output here. We can now drag that yellow output into the world direction. We can neaten this up a little bit maybe. So getting that down there. Just making that a little bit neater. Okay. So it says that we should have something similar to this, and yes, we have. So no, we've got something that looks similar now to what that is. Okay. So it says that if you are comfortable with how setting things up and how the various connections work, you can start kind of going through now and creating the extra kind of values just by looking at the images on future pages. But I'm going to keep going through this page by page, like I said I would, and we'll do the rest of it now as well. So it says that's it for forward backward inputs. Now we need to do left or right. So in a space, right click and search for move right, which was one of our other commands. So again, it's another event. Select the event again. Let's try and keep it somewhere close. We're going to do something similar here. And then it says basically select the add movement input node already in the graph. So there's our add movement input. If you just do Control C and Control V, it gives us another one. We haven't got to go searching for it again. Connect two execs together. So from that one into that one, again we've got a movement value again. Using the make rot node that already exists, drag off another connection. So there's our make rot there. We can drag off and search for get right vector. So not forward, get right, and there's our get right vector. So we have that there, and we can plug that into the world direction for this one now. Let's plug the axis value into scale value again, like we had the last time. The next page basically shows all our completed connections for our movement. We still need to add jump and action, but that should be, we should be to a good place now. So page 67 just shows what the current thing looks like. So we could make that a little bit neater, just kind of by showing the various values, but they now look, it looks very similar to what we've got there in that image. It says that nodes can be grouped together via a comment box. So if you drag around everything to highlight everything, it goes, press C on the keyboard, and we now get a whole box around all these nodes. So they're grouped together, and we can put a comment in. Let's call it the movement group. So now that you've got that, you can move this group around and it moves all the nodes inside of it. So on to page 68. It says now it's time for the turns. So we've got all the movement sorted out. We've now got to sort out how we're going to turn this character around. So right click in an available space outside the comment box and search for turn. So there's turn. There are two choices in axis events, turn and turn rate. Turn is used for the mouse left and right, and turn rate is used for the value as how far the thumbstick is being pushed away. So turn rate basically is based on the joypad, and turn is based on the mouse. So there it says turn rate. So it only requires one input. So we click on turn, and now that we've got turn done, so just drag a connection off it from the axis value, so this value down here, and search for add controller your input. So add controller, and there is your input. So it automatically kind of creates two inputs together, which is good. both connections will connect together. That's it, easy. So that's that one done. So do the same again for look up and down. So hopefully, if we do a search for look up, so there's our event for look up. Drag connection off the value here and search for add controller pitch input. So add controller, and there is pitch input. So there's our two controllers there done. So that's the mouse input sorted. So you could have wanted to drag that around and do mouse inputs. So we can now sort the right thumbstick out. So I mean, let's just do that. So do that, press C, and we'll call that mouse inputs. So now we're going to try and look at the joypad controls. So right click and search for turn rate. Spelled turn right, TURN, turn rate. And for lookup as well. So let's look for and lookup rate. Drag a connection off turn rate axis value and search for float times float. So type in float, there's our multiple, so float times float. So we have that one there. It says there the multiply float times float has two inputs, but we need three. So it says click on the add pin within the node and a third will appear. So there's add pin there just in the corner. If you click on add pin, we get another value there to play with. It says there next we need a get world delta seconds. So in a space, right click, get world delta seconds. So we've got that one there. Connect the output to the middle float times float value. So into the middle of that one. And it says right click the last multiply input. So we want to right click the last input here and promote to variable. So we are going to promote that to a variable. So we've now got a variable value here called uvar0, and it says rename the variable base turn rate. So up to the variable name here, and we'll call it base turn rate, remembering to keep each new word with a capital, and it will space it out automatically for us. So base turn rate, which is good. So on to the next page, we're on page 69. Copy, paste both the multiply FF and the get world. So copy that and hold down Control and copy that, and then just do a Control C, Control V, and we've got two values again. So connect in the same way as we did with the turn rate node, and again using the last input to promote a new variable. So axis value goes into the top, and we need to right click on this and promote a variable. We've got this new variable out of the way here, and it says there call it the base lookup rate. So base lookup rate. So we've got base lookup rate now for the lookup part of the controller. So you select one of the new variable nodes. It doesn't matter which one. So we've got the lookup rate selected. Where are we? I've lost me place there. It doesn't matter which one. The properties of that node will appear in the details box, so it's appeared over here. In this panel, and the instance editable property can be turned on or off. So instance editable, we have it here, so we can turn that on. When you do this, you also change the graphic in the My Blueprints panel. So down at the bottom here, you can see that this closed eyelid has now become an open eyelid. So you could turn it on and off there if you wanted to as well. But you can kind of see we've got this icon here. If I was to turn this off, that icon then becomes a closed eyelid, and now it's an open eyelid again. So under the variables and components rollout, you will see two variables. So basically these are the two new variables that we've created, which was these two things here. This one is an open eye, one is a closed one. You can also click on the eyelids to change the edit instance. Make sure both variables are turned on, so we want them both on. And compile your blueprint. So we'll compile the blueprint again, and we've got a green tick, which is good. So a default property has appeared in the details panel for each variable. So you can see with base lookup rate, the current base value is set to 0, and base turn rate is also currently set to 0. So it says start with a default value of 200 in each. So give that one 200, and the base lookup rate, we'll give that one 200 as well. This is probably going to make for a really fast turn, so again we're going to kind of need to have a look at these a little bit further on. But that was our joypad inputs, so perhaps we can select all of them. Hopefully. And we'll call that joypad, not inputs. Okay, so joypad inputs. You can still obviously select these inside if you want to move them all and just make it a little bit neater. And the corner here pulls up the size of the box. So on page 70, it says copy and paste the add controller your input and the add controller pitch input. So add controller your input and add controller pitch input, and we want to copy and paste them. So Control C, Control V. Let's move them over here. Connect them in the same way you did for the mouse inputs. So this then goes into there. This goes into here. And this one again goes into there. And that one goes into there as well. If you just make this box a little bit bigger, I've jumped the gun there by doing this before the PDF said, but again we've got the joypad inputs now hopefully working. So it says lastly, it says for now we have the jump to do. So right click in any space and search for jump. It says it will be an action event. So we are looking for an action event. So input action event jump. So click on jump. We want to perform an event when we press the jump button. So we're interested in the pressed executive, in the pressed exec. So there's pressed and released. So we want something to happen when we press the button. So drag connection off pressed and search for jump again. So we search for jump again. And it will be under pawn character. So character. So we've got set a jump, but we've got character here as well. So we have a function here called jump. If we click on it, there is our jump done there. See, the second jump function is only available in the character blueprint, which is why we chose it. So basically, jump is a built-in command only available in the character that we set up. So it says that's it for jump. So that should be it for jump. If you just drag a box around it, I guess, press C, and we'll call that jump. So there's our jump command. Having a quick look here, so right click in the space, press jump, be an action event. So if you jump again, another pawn, the function, that's a jump, so we leave our action until a little later. So compile the blueprint. Yep, we've got a green tick, that's all good. So obviously a fair bit of kind of right clicking and finding stuff there, but you know, that should be the bulk of what we need. Save the blueprint, close the blueprint and hit save all. So we're going to save it. We've done a fair bit of work now inside of these. Up to file, save all, and there's everything done there for that. So just a quick check of the images there to make sure everything's kind of all right on page 71. So that's what we have. And the other stuff, so we have jump again, just two very simple connections there for the mouse and the jump. And we're on to page 73 now. So it says here, most if not all games like the one we are creating will have several play modes, you know, stuff like capture the flag, free for all, multiplayer, etc. The game mode we're going to use basically is very simple. There isn't really much to set up, so we're just going to go ahead and do that now. So make sure you're back on the main screen. Right click the character folder. So if we right click on character and find new asset and blueprint class again. So new asset, blueprint class. We click on that and we are looking for choose game mode base. So there is game mode base there. And a new icon should appear in the character folder. So rename this blueprint my game. So my _ game. And there's kind of the little joypad with the computer screen and what else have you. Okay, open it up. So double click on it. And it says there, it looks very similar to the character blueprint. In the details panel, under classes, change the default pawn class to our character BP. So we're looking for default pawn class. Where have we gone? Default pawn class. So go down and we are looking for our character BP, which is the one that we created. So click on character BP. It says compile and close the window. So compile and close the window. Let's just make sure that was right there. Oh, good God, that's I wasn't expecting. Default pawn class, character BP. Yep, everything looks okay. Compile. Good. Right, just making sure. Okay, so on to page 74. It says now we need to tell Unreal to use the My Game blueprint. So choose the settings tab again and pick world settings. So right at the top there, world settings. And we have this kind of world settings here on the right hand side of the screen. Under the world outliner panel, in the game mode, we're looking for game mode override. So game mode, and this is, pull this out a little bit, we've got game mode override. It reads none. So change it to my game. So we've now changed it to my game. To check this has worked correctly, open the selected game mode directly below it. So just open the tab here, select the game mode. The default pawn class should read character BP. So it does. That's kind of what we've just changed there before in the previous setting. It says this only changes the game mode for the current level. So if we created another level, we'd have to basically go through this again. But it's better for our purposes to make the changes permanent. So it says go to settings again. So up to settings and select project settings this time. So project settings and select project settings. And there's the project window, the thing where we set our joystick etc. up before. It says under maps and modes, so let's go looking for maps and modes. So there it is. Click on maps and modes. Change the default game mode to my game. So default game mode, my game, and select my game. It goes again to check the default pawn class below it. So just open it up. And you can say default pawn class is set to character BP. There's no need to compile anything. No, these settings are saved automatically, so we can just close the projects window. So project window is now closed. And lastly here, it says the default maps are fine as they are, but if you would like to start Unreal Editor with your level every time you load this in, we can change it. So if you go to the Editor Startup map in default maps, actually, are we still in the, we might still be in the project settings. Maps and modes. So yep, so default maps, you've got Edit Starter map and Game Default map. You could change it to, you know, whatever your startup map needs to be. So at the moment mine's called Neil Hall Level. We'll change it to Neil Hall Level. That should basically, whenever you start the editor, it should load with this level already in it. So we can just close this down again. Okay, so it says there, that could be it. I'm pretty sure it is. There's only one way to find out. So I'll just save the game once more to make sure we've got everything done. And it says there, press the play button. So if everything has gone according to plan, you're hopefully now looking at your character from behind, which we are, which is brilliant. You should be able to move around with the WASD keys. You need to kind of click on the screen first to make it happen, to make the cursor disappear. So if you click on the screen, we can now run forward and we can run backwards, which is great. And we can now run right and left. So everything's working exactly how it should be now, which is a relief because it's all gone according to plan first time round. It says that if you want to reverse the direction of the camera's controls, you need to go into settings and swap your mouse controls. So if you're the kind of person who pushes up to look up and down to look down, as opposed to the way that it is at the moment, you can go into the settings and where you have a minus, change that to positive, and where you have the positive, change it to a minus. And that's basically what it's talking about there. So the next page, on page 77, that's a few problem pages in case of if something hasn't happened, you can have a quick look at them and kind of maybe find out, like I said, if you push forward or you push left and right and your character doesn't move, or your camera itself doesn't rotate like it does here. Also as well, I think we've got the jump now working because we said it was the space bar from the keyboard, so our jump is now working brilliantly. And we can run forward and we can jump and we can turn around in the air as we're jumping and whatever. So everything seems to be working now as well as it should. Animation wise kind of thing is there's a bit of slipping going on there. To sort that out, you can start playing with the various numbers and hopefully kind of you can start to fine tune your animation now. Maybe the camera's a little bit too far away. You might want to get a little bit closer, but I mean, I think that's fine. We can get a good view of our character. We can get a good view of the animations, and just kind of see a bit of the world around us. So, escape to get out of there. That is, obviously a great big chunk of the work done. So, if that has worked first time for you, brilliant. If it hasn't, you've got to go back and try and figure out what went wrong. Use the page there on page 77 to hopefully give you an idea of where to start it. And yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to pause there for a few minutes, and then I'm going to go on and set up the action controls. There's a little bit of work involved in that as well. Okay, so see you in a couple of minutes.